Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Business of Being an Artist, the New Jersey State Arts Council's virtual professional development series designed to cover an array of business and well-being related topics for artists. Today's webinar is focused on crowdsourced funding from a holistic perspective. And my name is Stephanie Nurbach. I am the Artist Services Manager at the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, and I am joined by my colleagues at the Council, Samantha Clark and Sally Van de Water. They are with us today, but behind the scenes. And Samantha is the Program Officer for Arts Education and Lifelong Learning, and Sally is the Program Officer for Folk and Traditional Arts. Together, we make up the Business of Being an Artist professional development team. Our goal at the Arts Council is to identify the needs of individual artists in our state and offer services including professional development to help fulfill those needs and offer services including professional development and ultimately serve artists in New Jersey better. If you have questions or need support, please don't hesitate to reach out. Our contact information is now in the chat. By completing the post-workshop survey after today's event, you'll be able to share direct feedback with the team. This feedback will provide ways in which we can improve future offerings and give you the chance to share the topics in which you are most interested to learn about. So please take a few minutes to complete the survey. It sincerely is helpful to our work. So look for that in the chat, and we'll also share it after the event is over. So crowdsourced funding, a holistic approach to artists, marks this fiscal year's second workshop in the Business of Being an Artist series. Be sure to mark your calendars for future offerings, including a two-part Writing for Artists series and a networking event for artists. To learn more about future professional learning opportunities, please make sure you're signed up for our Opportunities for the Field newsletter, which comes out monthly. And if you are looking for past workshops, you can now access recordings via the Arts Council's website, and that link is also now available in the chat. So before I introduce the guest speaker, I want to touch on today's logistics. This is a 60-minute webinar with one presenter. There will not be any scheduled breaks. Closed captioning is available. Please click the button at the bottom of your screen should you want automated captions turned on. Following the presentation, we will have time for a live Q&A. And if you have a question to share, please use the Q&A function and utilize the chat for general communications and resource sharing. We will make an effort to address all questions from the Q&A. However, if we run out of time, we'll make note of all missed questions and address them in a follow-up email. So because there's no scheduled break, we do encourage you to take care of yourself as you see fit. A recording of today's session will be made available, so if you need to step away or if you want to rewatch the presentation, you will be able to access the information shared here today. So today's presenter, we are so excited to invite Eileen Jarrett to talk to us about her expertise in crowdsourced funding. She is a documentary filmmaker and crowdfunding expert with over 12 years of experience. She has led thousands of campaigns to success. To learn more about our guest, please see her bio now placed in the chat. Without further ado, I want to welcome Eileen, and I will pass the mic over to her.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you today. It's a topic that I absolutely love to talk about and also to share any sort of learnings that I've been able to glean from this process as an artist myself, and also someone that's helped many, many, many other artists in different disciplines be able to sort of navigate this very cryptic, strange world of crowdfunding. And I'm sure many of you know just funding in general for us artists is very strange. And so we always want to not gatekeep this information and help each other. So I have a little presentation for you. I'm going to go through a lot of this information very quickly, but again, as we heard, the whole video will be saved and available for you. So please feel free to either screenshot things that really stand out and speak to what you're trying to go through, or go back and look at the video at any time, but just don't be worried if you're not taking all the information in at once. Yes, so Stephanie, can I ask, do you see the screen okay, the presentation view?
I do. It says audience window.
Okay, let me try one more way. Okay, thank you everyone for hanging on while I figure out this.
Yeah, take your time. We'll get it.
Okay, how's that looking?
That looks great.
All right, here we are. Okay, so we will jump right in. So this is just a overview of the topics that we're going to talk about today. Just as was mentioned before, I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions that are specific for your situation, and please feel free to put those in the chat whenever they come to mind. Hopefully I'll cover them in this overview, but if not, we'll make sure that we make time as we can at the end of this. Don't worry if there's a question that seems like very specific for your situation, there's a chance that there's still things that we can glean for everybody else. So I invite your questions. And brief overview, I've worked on the overlap of arts and crowdfunding for a number of years. It all started with funding my own work. I can speak to it personally, and the wild empowerment that crowdfunding can be for an artist and what it can do for your career afterwards. And I can also speak to what it's done for a lot of different artistic disciplines. I know a lot of us today here are visual artists along with some other beautiful multimedia disciplines, but I'm going to try to make sure I really speak to what's applicable for you. And if it's your first crowdfunder, awesome. If it's your 100th crowdfunder, that's great too. Hopefully there'll be some tools today that's going to be useful in the next time that you go through this or the first time that you go through this. So I wanted to show you, we know crowdfunding is widespread. These are just a few of the crowdfunding platforms that exist for artists. Maybe you've heard of one of them, maybe you've heard of all of them. Some of them are regionally based, some of them are discipline based. I am not going to focus in today on any one particular platform, but I just want to show you there's tons out there now. And if you do a little research, you can find the one that speaks the best to who your audience is in the area that you work in. So starting with crowdfunding as a catalyst for career growth. I don't know if many of us have thought of that before. We think, okay, crowdfunding, I need the essential funds to do the work that I love. But it actually goes beyond that. There's some really beautiful parts about crowdfunding that helps our careers as artists that maybe you don't know until you go through the process. But I'd like to sort of promote it because I've seen it do beautiful things for a lot of different artists in my career. One of the things is a lot of us are used to applying for grants or looking for private funding. And if you have a successful crowdfunder under your belt, that now is a permanent record online of the audience that exists for your work of success. And so that is something that you can point to in your next grant application. You can use that during your next pitch deck. So that's a good reason for keeping your crowdfunding goal modestly low so that you can hit that 100% mark and just show overall success. The next one is enhanced visibility. I know a lot of us are wondering, how are we going to ever pay for the amount of marketing and ads and support that we need to really stand out online? But a successful crowdfunder can actually do that on its own. So it's another reason that might be of interest to you. The next one, it builds credibility. It shows I've got a clear idea, I know how to make it happen, and other people also understand what I'm making. And the last one, of course, it grows your fan base. Maybe you have a hardcore group of fans that have been following you all along. This is a great way to expand that and then bring those folks on with you to the next project. The next, building the foundation for crowdfunding. So I'm going to just zoom right through this. You probably have questions, and I would love those questions. But I want to tell you some of the things that I get asked all the time as a crowdfunding specialist. When should I launch? How long should my campaign be? And how much should I ask for? There's no hard and fast rule, I will say. I will just tell you statistically what I have seen in the last 2 years specifically work well for arts crowdfunding. So, when to launch? Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the best days often for launching a crowdfunder. Launching in the early afternoon of wherever the majority of your audience lives. So, if you have a huge audience in, say, Iceland, make sure that you're launching in the right time zone and that you're not launching just where you exist. Stay away from the holidays unless your beautiful project has some sort of thematic connection to that holiday. What you're looking for is you're looking for the most like neutral time of the year, of the week, of the day, where people will have the brain space to pay attention to this wonderful thing you've just put in front of them. Next, how long should my campaign be? This is absolutely up to you, but this sort of seems like the sweet spot that we've seen. 30 days particularly, I have seen that holds people's attention long enough, but it also gives them enough time to come back to your campaign to actually donate. Then last of this basic level understanding of crowdfunding, what should I ask for? I am not going to give you a number because your project is so personal to what your needs are, what your discipline is, where you are in that process. But what I can tell you, these are a few things just to keep in mind. How much does it cost to create what you're trying to create? How much is it going to cost to send people the rewards that donated to your campaign? Where's your market? What's the size of your market? Like, look at other crowdfunders and what did they ask for? Maybe you're doing a theater production. Great. I can't wait to watch it. But you're asking for $100,000 and you're looking on Kickstarter and only seeing the people make on average 10,000 in their crowdfunder for theater. Maybe consider calibrating that a bit. I learned a beautiful lesson from watching a successful crowdfunder named Michael Mahal, who launched many, many crowdfunders on Indiegogo for films. And what he did is he said, okay, I know if I ask my audience for $100,000, it's just going to be mind-blowingly too much. What I can do though is I can break down my film into stages. I can ask for $20,000 to develop a script, and then I'll bring those folks on to production, and then editing, and then distribution. So that's one phasing way that you can bring people through the costs of your project, but just making those individual campaigns. That's a ton of information, really gone through fast. What I just mean is try to think about what's the base amount that you need, not what's your artist dream, what's going to keep you like paying rent for the year, but what do you actually need to make this project? Common crowdfunding pitfalls. These are just some bugaboos that I've seen over the last couple of years of people that have had beautiful ideas and then something happened and just knocked their knees out. So I want to give you these warnings ahead of time because I can't like be around you when you launch your crowdfunder. You're going to launch. You're going to be so happy, and I'm so happy for you. You're going to start getting bombarded with scams. People are going to find your information from the crowdfunding platform and promise you the moon and stars about helping you find backers. And from artist to artist, I will tell you, I have never seen this work. So I'm just trying to plug that for you. The greatest tool that you have is your own ambition and outreach right now. No amount of money that I have seen for arts paid into ads or into support like this has ever really made a huge difference in crowdfunding for artists. Please excuse me if there's an anomaly, but right now I think that that's the best thing to know is that there's not going to be some unicorn that's going to come through and do this work for you. It's an arduous process, but I promise you it's got payoff. Next, following up. Life is very loud and very busy. So people that love you, that want to support your campaign, they are going to need to have reminders. You're going to be so worried that you're going to bug people in your life. And I get it, but your grandma's not going to unfollow you. Your hairdresser's still going to love you. All these people want to see you succeed. So please make sure that you're following up with people so that they have an opportunity to actually follow through and support your campaign. Next is test, pivot, test, and repeat. What I mean by this is test out to the people that love you. Hey, Do you think that these rewards are interesting? Do you think that my video, my campaign video is interesting? Is the way that I explain my project clear? Ask those people. And if it's not, give yourself a flexibility of time to change your idea and to pivot. A lot of us, especially in the documentary film world, painfully know this is so important to be able to move when change is needed. So please just bake that into your schedule. Many campaigns spend 2 to 3 months in their prep phase before they even launch. Find that person that is brutally honest in your life. Yes, you might shed a few tears after their advice, but it's better to have their brutal honesty now than to just wonder why isn't your campaign moving to the way that you need it to. The next is committing to your campaign. What I ask you is to consider, can I pause working on my art while my campaign is going on? Can you fully give of yourself creatively and energy-wise to your campaign? Those that I've seen be able to do that have done far better than those that say, oh, I'm also going to try to pick up some B-roll shots. I'm going to try to get this last bit of pottery out before, or I'm going to go to an art fair. Try to look at the calendar and say, can I clear this space for this campaign as my full-time job? I actually had a client once that decided to go to Costa Rica the day they launched their campaign. They just vanished. And their campaign failed, and it was so sad because it was a really beautiful idea. And they just thought, if I build it, they will come. That's very much not the case that I've seen in crowdfunding. The next thing that I want to say to you, maybe this is just like more of like me cheerleading behind you, but being courageous in your outreach. I've seen a lot of beautiful artists be very shy about outreach and say, oh, well, I don't know if that's perfect fit. I don't know if that person wants to help. They're so busy. They're so popular. Just try. Just shoot your shot. I promise you, amazing things will come from that. And if you can cast a wide enough net, you're really playing the odds. Don't be shy in asking for help from your network. And by your network, I just mean anybody that loves you, anybody that believes in you. I have seen some artists do like a broad call out to friends and family and colleagues and say, is anybody good at making posters? Is anybody good at making videos? Is anybody smart with SEO? Find in your network who is great at different things that maybe you're weaker in or that you just need a little help with the lift. If you can do this not alone, it's going to help your mental health. It's going to help you just be successful in your campaign. All to say, team projects I've just seen do much better in crowdfunding. Be positive and not desperate in your messaging. That is not me trying to Mary Poppins on you. What I'm trying to say here is people pick up on it. When you start asking for things and saying, we're only at 30%, I'm not going to be able to make that project if we don't make 100%. That desperation doesn't feel inspiring. It feels heavy. So think about, can I bring you into the creative process? Can I invite you into this usually closed door of me making my art and make you a part of it? That wording change just kind of like lifts everything and it gives people a nicer story than I bailed this artist out. Okay, let's go on to the next part. Okay, leveraging email for maximum impact. Yes, you might find this very boring. I also find this very boring, but it is important, and I'll tell you why. For some reason, email is still the highest converter into actual backers of any kind of outreach that you can do. That's in person, that's parties, that's a social media, ads, still email is top for it. So what you can kind of count on, if you have a healthy email list, meaning people that you didn't buy a list of, and that they're the real humans, then you can assume that about 5% of that number will convert into actual backers. This might help you when you're trying to calibrate what you're asking for as far as your base funding goal. I said it before, I'll say it again only because it's true. Don't buy an email list. It's not going to help you. I've seen lots of clients buy email lists and it didn't turn into anything but people marking you as spam. And if you get marked as spam, then unfortunately, the really quality emails that would have made it to possible backers just get to their spam folder, and all of your work is just for naught. So I know it seems like a quick fix. Trust me, don't buy an email list. You might be asking, well, Eileen, I don't have thousands of emails at my disposal. Yeah, I know. I totally get it. Yeah, a lot of us don't. So a way around that that we'll talk about is how you can collaborate with organizations and NGOs and other groups that do already have those email lists and that kind of audience, and how you can work with them in sharing your campaign in an authentic way. So the next part is just copying and pasting your email link into your email outreach or your social media marketing is going to get very dull. I'm sure you've all seen it before. Somebody's running an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter and they just keep copying that same link. And you're just like, I get it. You need to raise money. But what you want to think about is what kind of fresh content can I put out to give people a reason to check out my campaign today? What can I do to get people excited about, like, chanting on this campaign? Maybe it's a countdown. Maybe it's releasing new incentives, like new rewards to people. Maybe it's you giving people an insight into behind the scenes of your creative process. That's a really beautiful thing to put in your updates, your email, and your social media marketing while this campaign is running. Okay, I get asked this a lot, and I'm just putting this here as sort of a due diligence because it's so sad when people's messages end up going to spam. It's not that you have these backers that love you and they're marking you as spam. It's a lot of times that the email platforms themselves are seeing certain things that are triggering a spam. Here's the list of the things I've seen the most commonly that are very easy to avoid. Feel free to screenshot this or write it down. That help you curate your email outreach in a way where you're not going to get sent right to spam. Okay, next. I hope you're all staying with me. I'm sorry I can't see your faces, but you sound like you're wonderful people. The next is tips to sustain campaign energy. Every single crowdfunding campaign, from the ones that make millions to the ones that are just raising $100, has this like dead period in the middle where nothing moves. And it is very scary. And it doesn't always have a reason. But what I want to do is I want to equip you with some tools that you can use to build momentum back up and not freak out and think this is the end of your campaign. The first one seems obvious, but really, I mean it. Talk about your campaign every single day. Talk about it to your coworkers, talk about it to your collaborators, talk about it to any groups that you're involved in, the person that made your coffee, anything, any interactions that you have throughout the day. The reason we say this is because the worst thing to happen is at the end, people go, oh, I didn't know you were doing a crowdfunder. So, how can you make this something that people are championing and following along with you? Make it really easy, make a QR code or have the link handy so that when people ask you about it, they don't have to go searching on the internet to find your campaign. Give them a really easy entry to champion and following along with what you're doing. Again, you're going to think you're annoying, but it's actually really fun to follow along, and it's only 30 days. It's not that bad. The next, again, another thing you can take a screenshot of if you like to, momentum hacks. So almost all those crowdfunding platforms have an update section. Those updates not only reflect on the campaign page itself, but that also goes out to all of the followers that have already signed up for your campaign. So let's say that you release a new perk, that goes out to everybody. Maybe you're going to do an interview about your process, that goes out to everybody. The the strongest campaigns I've seen so far have really utilized that update section. Um, you can look more into stretch goals. We'll talk about that later. Direct communication. If you think that there's somebody that might possibly be an angel investor, somebody that would like donate a fair amount, try to make those connections before you launch. Say, is there any chance that maybe you would donate in the first 2 days? Releasing new perks is a really great way of keeping the momentum up. And then, of course, boring again, but please do check your metrics. Most of the crowdfunding platforms have metrics baked in so you can see where are people coming from? What time of day are they coming in? What are they doing once they get to your page? There's a chance that there's something confusing on your page that's making people go, oh, I'll just follow back up on that because I don't understand it. You want to make sure that you understand that so you can change it before you lose all that possible support. Designing a compelling campaign page. And I'm so excited to be talking to artists about this because you probably already have a vision in your head of how you want this to be laid out. What I really want to share with you today is that so many of us have had to do grants in the past that are just so much text. It's so heavy. This is the opposite. This is much more of light visual like popcorn pitches of what you're trying to do. And I put a layout here of what I have seen as sort of the formula that's worked really nicely in the past. What you're trying to do is make sure you don't have more than like 2 sentences of text because people just check out. Is there a way you could turn what you were going to say in text into a visual? Is there a way that you could bring in something about you that just translates very quickly to a visual or a link if you need to tell them more? 80% of your page in general should just be visuals instead of text. I love this part. You might be thinking, how am I going to do my full-time life, my art, and this crowdfunder? What I'd love for you to think about is what can I repurpose? You've probably got a really good line of material for this project that you're trying to do. Um, so I'd like you to think about how can you recycle that into this crowdfunder? Do you have storyboards? Do you have quotes from people that you're going to be working with that are so excited? Do you have behind the scenes footage or even a budget or a timeline? Anything that brings people into that creative process. It might seem like everyday boringness to you because you're so used to it, but to the outsider that's maybe not in the arts world, this can be kind of a magical process. And I don't mean to be too like la-di-da about it, but I really believe that I think outside of the arts world, people go, wow, this is really something spectacular you're going through, and I'd love to be a part of it. So think about what you already have. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. It's going to take too much time. This is meant to get you to making your art. The next question I get asked constantly is campaign video. Is it important? It's super important. I think it's something like 70% of the, maybe it might be even higher now, 70% of the campaigns that get funded, particularly in the arts, have a video. So if you're thinking to skip the video, I would love for you to reconsider that. You don't need a big camera crew. You don't need to have something flashy with like CGI and cars and all of this. It just can be you with your iPhone earnestly speaking from your heart about why you're doing this work. I would suggest keep it 2 minutes, 3 minutes if you have to. The average person watches the first minute, and they usually watch it the first time around without sound. So think about if I was going to watch this without sound, would I still understand it? Would I still be somewhat interested? If sound is paramount in what you're trying to say to people, make sure there's really bold captions, because also the majority of people are going to watch this the first time on their phone, often in transit. So can you get this? Can you get your story from watching a tiny little square? That's somebody just watching the square. And how to mobilize your supporters. I really like thinking about this because it's so important to consider ahead of time how you're going to mobilize the people that are going to back your project. But I also think there's a great deal of flexible creativity in this topic. So first, understanding your audience. I I've met a lot of artists that say, "Well, my art is for everyone." And that's beautiful, and I hope that it is. But narrowing it down is going to save you a lot of painful extra time and resources. So your first people that are going to be likely donating to your campaign are going to be your close friends and family. I have to say that because some people are too shy to bring in their family early on, but those people love you. They love whatever you're going to be making and they're loyal to you. And showing that jump in your campaign support in the first couple days helps you get to the top of the algorithm on the platform so that you'll be more visible to those that aren't so familiar with your work. Then reaching out to extended family and friends, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your neighbors, people that love you, but from a little bit more of a distance. They also would love to know what you're up to. So this takes a bit of courage, some deep breathing before you reach out to people that maybe you haven't talked to in a while, and thinking, how can I word this in a way that's true to my voice, clear, short, and rallies the people that love me? Again, feel free to screenshot this if you want. These are just some examples of like reaching beyond the immediacy of your network. Who could those possibly be in your life? Who are in contact with you weekly, monthly, that you could ask to help you not only support your campaign, but share your campaign? Okay, partnering with organizations. And here, my friends, we're going full circle back to when we were talking about email. Remember when we were saying most artists don't have thousands and thousands of emails that they can just send out, like they don't have contacts? These organizations do. And there is a very strategic and honest way that you can collaborate with these organizations that not only will help you in this campaign, but could possibly help you in all your future projects. So I'd love for you to think about thematically, who are the organizations that might have overlap with the theme of your work? For example, my work often has to do with Iceland. So I look for the Scandinavian communities wherever I am and try to make collaborations with them. Very often, these nonprofits and these smaller businesses won't have money to be a funder, but they might be even better for you than that. They might be somebody that has the ear of thousands of people that would love to know that your art exists. So, how can you work with them in a way that fits into their schedule of their newsletter, that works into their wording and their formatting? Talk to them early on about how that could be possible, and then you can retrofit your announcement of your campaign into a format that works for them. It never has worked that I've seen reaching out to these organizations after you've already launched. So please, please do that ahead of time. Here are some examples of how I've seen people approach these organizations with possible partnership ideas. So, as I said, they're probably not going to throw a bunch of money at you. That's okay. That's not what you're trying to do here. You're looking for ways where you're satisfying their interests and their market and their agenda for the year, along with showing more visibility to your campaign. I'm just going to show you this really, really quick. So this is my example. If for an example, you were doing something, a film about dog shows, and you're like, oh, who would possibly be interested in helping me promote dog shows? This was a very quick look into the different organizations and businesses that could very well want to help you spread the word about a dog show film. And this can be applied to every single project. And I'll just say it one more time before we leave this section, your outreach really should be done before you launch your campaign. Just because it helps you not sound desperate again, and it gives people a lot of space to think about how this fits into their format. Quite a few of these organizations have boards that they have to pass this by, and they have a load of other work that they're trying to do. So give yourself the space, give them the space to consider your request and fit it into their schedule. Okay, the next topic, which I absolutely love, is designing rewards. Rewards are meant to be perks that you offer people for donating to your campaign. This is not a storefront, so it doesn't have to be a dollar for dollar match. I have a suggestion here. If you have the time to send out a short survey, something like this, to people that love you, that can give you feedback on what kind of rewards they might donate to. The things that you think people might donate to might not at all be of interest. So this gives you an idea, what would people maybe spend on a reward at that tier? Is this an exciting thing to offer? And again, test, pivot, test. I hope this is obvious to a lot of us in the media arts, but the times of offering DVDs and CDs and Blu-rays are gone. So you'll see some retro campaigns coming in and offering like cassettes or vinyl, but still that's rare. I'd love for you to think about how can this be offered maybe in a digital format, or offering maybe people come to the show, they come to a screening, give them an in-person VIP experience. Just don't worry about offering DVDs. I still see filmmakers trying to do that. And the next, how to think of your rewards. Here's a couple prompts for you to think about. Does this reward make people feel special? Are you giving them something that they can't just buy off your website? Are you giving them an experience that lets them brag at their next dinner party? Um, Are the rewards unique to your campaign in a way where it's just not a copy of the art? Of course, you want to make your art available, whatever it is that they're donating to, in a way that's comfortable for you. But think a little couple steps further. How is this something that can make them feel really special and included? More than anything, it's not a storefront, it's a thank you gift. Okay. I have quite a lot of these and I'm going to go through them very quickly. I'm not going to read them. I'm just going to show you them. These are some examples of different rewards that I have seen different disciplines offer that have been wildly successful. So that could be a studio tour, that could be a red carpet event, that could be a writing workshop, it could be a character cameo. Maybe you name somebody name somebody's arch nemesis on a villain in your in your writing. You can personalize a song. You could give somebody a music lesson. Um, you could bring somebody in for a dry run of a read through. You could give them signed playbills. There's such a beautiful array that you can think about what's true for me, what's going to be very low overhead for you is cost and work. And that's something that you can bake into your rewards. Okay. Self-care techniques for the crowdfunding artist. It is last, but it is not least. This process can be full time. And many artists go in and they burn out. And that is not at all what we want, right? We want you to go in, be fortified by all this community support, and leave having the funding and all of the love and joy around you of a new community. So I just want to give you a couple tips that I've seen work really well. Of course, it's going to be personal to you also. Drink water. My sisters find this really annoying that I say this much, but drinking water, having a glass of water next to you while you're going through your campaign can really help you in just taking a pause, whatever that means, having a lunch, having a power bar. Rally for help. What I mean by that is, again, asking people that have expertise in different fields that could be helpful for your campaign, but also having people on call for giving you a pep talk. You're going to hit that middle period in the middle of your campaign. You probably will feel a little bit of hopelessness and worry. That's okay. It's part of the process. But having somebody that can say, you got this, keep going. Um, think about who can be on call for you in this. You don't have to go through it alone. A launch party. It has been wildly successful in a post-pandemic world watching the crowdfunding campaigns in the arts do launch parties. Because what this does, not only it builds your energy up for this like 30-day wild ride of a campaign that you're going to go through, it also creates people that feel a new kind of investment in the success of your campaign. So all those people that come become somewhat ambassadors for making sure your campaign's successful. So you can say, all right, everybody, let's meet at this brewery, let's meet at this coffee shop, and then ring a bell and show the QR code and say, I've opened it up. The campaign has started. That really gives people a sense of community and connectedness when it comes to donating together. There's lots of beautiful ways that you can do this, but it means to create ambassadors and give you a lot of good energy going into this process. A gratitude ritual can be whatever it means to you. For me, what that was at the end of every single day in my campaign, whether 2 people donated or 200, I would create an image and put their names, thanking them. And that did help me quite a lot in saying, well, those 2 people did show up for me today. So although I would have liked it to be many more, I do have to stay focused that there's some big wins here that are happening. I think I've seen this help a lot of people. There was one campaign that did like 3 or 4 times over their goal. It was a documentary. And what they did was say, if we reach this percentage of our goal by the end of today, my wife and I are going to sing you a terrible off-key song that we're going to play in our garage for you. And for some reason, it cost them nothing. It made people so happy and they reached their goal right away. So you can find these really sweet ways of connecting with your backers that don't have to be really hard for you. I personally got a megaphone and I said, if you help me today, I will go to the nearest mountain in Washington State and I will yell your name into the ether. It had nothing to do with my film. And I did it and I reached my goal. Very weird thing, but fun. So I'd like you to think, what gives you life? What can give you energy towards this? And then last, have a plan for a longer break when your campaign is over so that you can sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of us artists try to go right into the next thing. If you can think about how you're going to give yourself a hard stop and a reset, it will help you differentiate. This was my campaign. This is my art. Okay. If you hung on there and you captured all of that detail, bravo. If you didn't, it's okay. We recorded it. I'd like to open it up now for a Q&A because I really want to make a lot of space for the different questions that all of us might be going through right now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eileen. So we definitely have a couple of questions, and I was even thinking of a couple of questions myself while you were presenting. And I just want to say that this is such thorough information and really invaluable encouragement um, to go for this kind of fundraising. So thank you. So I'm going to pull up what I see in the chat right now. And again, everyone who is with us, if you have a question, please use the Q&A function to insert your question, and we will get to it. So the first one that I see is, what is an example of being positive and not desperate in your messaging?
That's a great question. A difference could be, um, I'm so excited to tell you all today that we have reached 15% of our goal. Sure, in your head, you wish that you had reached 50, but this is how you present it. We have reached 15% of our goal. So many people have wrote me and told me that they are really looking forward to the ceramic frog project that I'm making. Would you like to join us today? And something like that, like give them a reason, say today, make sure that there's some sort of relevancy to doing it sooner than later. Um, Other wording could be, I just wanted to share with you this wonderful news that so-and-so vegan shoe company decided to come on and offer us 3 pairs of vegan shoes for anyone that donates to the campaign today. What a day. Yeah, versus I'm really concerned we're not going to get enough funding to make this film. I'm not sure what to do. Please donate. Please share this with everyone you know. It's just very like, who? So that could be a difference. I've, if you would like, feel free to reach out to me too. I can give you more examples that I've seen work in the wording. Yeah, that's just a couple ways you could approach it. I think the main difference is joy versus worry.
Ah, that's clear. Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right, next one I see here is, what is an example of a crowdfunding scam? What are some red flags to look out for?
Crowdfunding scams. Somebody that can promise you backers for a certain amount of money or a percentage of your end campaign. You will get many proposals from people that seem legitimate for this. And I really just haven't seen this work. There are crowdfunding strategists that exist in this world that you can reach out to that can help you review your campaign before it goes live and give you some feedback on maybe different flags that they see. But really, anybody that's reaching out to you cold, promising you that they can bring in a bunch of people, I would be very wary of.
That's useful. Thank you. Are we able to use crowdfunding as a way to also get sponsors? Meaning we can provide rewards for higher donations and consider them a sponsor instead of a funder? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, you absolutely can. I can give you an example. I worked on one crowdfunding film campaign where they said for anyone that donates over $10,000, I believe that was the tier, you will be considered a investor and you will be invited to sit in the investor meeting. And you can work out privately like what kind of equity they have in the film, or if no equity at all, they just get their name in the credits. So whatever that might look like for you. I was part of a book campaign where they brought a university on, and the university was able to come on as what you're calling a sponsor at this like higher end tier. And that really helped quite a bit. So it is quite common in a crowdfunder to have your lower tiers, meaning like $25, $50. Yes, those will be where the majority of people probably donate, but it's great to also have the option at like those higher ends, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 for those sort of big, deeper pockets, I guess you could say. For those deeper pockets, those rarely just randomly happen. What I've seen work out is maybe you have an idea of somebody that has been interested in supporting your art for a while, reaching out to them before you launch your campaign and saying, hey, we were having this conversation about you investing. Would you consider investing in the crowdfunder when it goes live? And it would encourage others to donate.
Hmm,
That's just one process.
great. Oh, that's a great point, right? You need those sort of sponsor level folks to encourage more more giving. Okay, how early in advance should we launch our campaign before starting production?
Hmm. Okay, so if you do the math of you want to spend approximately 2, 3 months in your prep getting ready for your campaign, you want to run your campaign for a month, you're going to need approximately, assuming nothing is complicated in the disbursement of your funds, you're going to need 2 weeks for the platform to release your funds. Make sure that you calculate how much the platform fee is going to take from those funds too when you're doing your budget. And they'll take a processing fee for credit cards. Just a little side note. Um, so yeah, I would do the math of like how soon you need to go into production with that. And is that bumping up against any holidays for you or time when your crew isn't available? Um, my suggestion is try to not cut it too close because we don't want you to be so preoccupied with getting ready for production that you can't give anything into your campaign. That's my suggestion. You can always also piecemeal it, like I said, you can do different phases of your production as individual campaigns if you rather.
Okay, great. We couldn't figure out Facebook Meta. We are looking into another fundraiser that wasn't flexible enough, and then we looked into Indiegogo. That wanted my personal info, even though I had the company's EIN. What site do you suggest?
That's an interesting question. Okay, so I don't know off the top of my head any platform that's not going to ask you for personal information like your mailing address, your social, your phone number. And part of the reason that they do this is the due diligence on the platform side to make sure that it's going to the legally correct place. It's a way of also protecting the backers to ensure that they are in fact donating to what they think they're donating to. Um, but I understand if you don't want to give your personal information. Uh, I'm wondering if for your situation, if you have an EIN, if the business address, if it's different than your own, could be what you use instead of personal. Um, yeah, don't take my word for it. I'm not totally sure if that's the best path, but that could be one way of not just having your personal. I will also say that personal information will not be available for the average general public to see. That's just for the platform to confirm your identity.
Great, that's useful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there such a thing as crowdfunding through a fiscal sponsorship directly versus an online platform?
Yeah, for sure. The two ways that I've seen that work out is you can either do like a plugin on the website of the fiscal sponsorship. So, just something like a donate me plugin, and then you completely run all of it. Usually the plugin will still take a percentage, but how much I'm not sure. The benefit of that is you control all of it. All the personal information stays with you. The negative side could be looked at as it's not a popular crowdfunding site. It might be kind of unusual for some people to donate in that way. Yeah, there's pros and cons for that for sure. I really love though that you're thinking about fiscal sponsorship, and this is great for all of us artists that have access to a fiscal sponsor. If you can have that conversation with your fiscal sponsor ahead of time, their information could be what you're using for what the funds will come into. So when you put your information into the platform, your banking information, your EIN, that if it's your fiscal sponsor, then you can turn around and say to your backers, hey, we can give you a tax write-off for your donation. And I have seen that be an incentive, not for the lower tiers so much, but definitely for what we were talking about with those higher investors.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. That was really interesting question. Um, would a
Mhm.
serialized podcast of the film story be a good perk for donors?
That's a cool idea for donors. Um, yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at a platform like Patreon, that's kind of like what you're a way of what you're talking about. It's giving people consistent, exclusive content behind the scenes for some sort of subscription price. So I think that's an awesome idea. Please let me know how that works out.
Cool.
Maybe you would want to think about having a teaser too. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Yeah, having like a little teaser on your updates about what that could sound like could sort of like draw people into it.
Oh, I love it. I love the brainstorming that starts to happen, right? All right. As a
Absolutely.
narrative film director who is now looking to crowdfund for a documentary, what are some strategies for pitching your film when you do not have a complete story arc finalized?
I get asked this a lot too. I would say don't be intimidated about the stage that your project is at. And that can be for film, it can be for theater, it can be for sculpture, really any discipline. Don't be worried if you don't have a tangible thing to show people quite yet. It's really exciting for a lot of people to come into the visioning process. So if you're able to at least be clear on what you have so far and how you're getting to those decisions, maybe you could bring your backers into the decision-making process in some sort of creative way. Maybe they could name characters. Maybe they could help you pick a location that you're trying to decide between. So there's a way of making that a really great asset rather than thinking, oh, I'm not far enough ahead. When it comes to you creating your campaign video, I think being vulnerable could be a beautiful thing for you at this stage, saying, I just have this feeling I have to make this documentary, and here's why. Could be a compelling reason for people to support it.
Yeah. Okay. Should we add our pitch deck to the campaign, or is the campaign more of a recreation of the pitch deck?
I'd say the second. It's more of a recreation, taking out things like the extended budget, long synopsis, all those things. You don't want all of that text bogging down your campaign page, but there's definitely things that you can reuse from your pitch deck. So awesome that you have one.
Is there a difference when crowdfunding for a narrative film with a script that has already been in and won screenplay competitions versus a new project with an award-winning filmmaker from Fact?
Mm-hmm. To me, the difference is how you're positioning the project. Like one already has the credibility built in. So you want to play on that. You want to show, quotes from press. You want to show clips from the film or any awards and the laurels that you've won. Great. And like boost that up and make people feel like, oh, this is something that already people are saying, I gotta see. Versus this artist in this really special, vulnerable place that's just starting their idea. And it's sort of this little baby that needs support. Like, that can be something really exciting too, but being honest and saying, we're at the very beginning of this. How exciting is that? And you guys could come in and help us with the shaping of this, or I could show you behind the scenes. Like I could bring you into the writer's room. I could bring you into our location scouting, all these new spaces that normally you probably wouldn't think to bring your fans. Because fans often only see this end film, but they could be seeing all this greatness and all these decisions you're making leading up to that film.
Yeah, full creative process. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, so those are the questions from the Q&A, but we do have a couple of ones that made it into the chat. And I was seeing one specifically. We did have a person who shared about perks and sort of struggling with those ideas for dance projects specifically. And in the chat, we sort of offered that we could do a little brainstorming, or that ask you if you had seen any certain perks that were offered through dance projects. I've seen open rehearsals being offered, free performance tickets, complimentary dance classes. If it's a dance company, sometimes they have swag that they offer folks, things like that. But I didn't know if you had anything specific that you could
I
offer.
mean, you nailed all the big ones right there. That was perfect. Good job.
Thank you.
Other things you could do, you could send them props from productions. You could send them signed posters. You could You could offer a group class. You could offer an online class. Teach me how to do a pirouette. Like teach
Mhm.
me like one simple thing. And that could be a draw. Um, I think that's a really fun idea. Any accoutrements that you think of when you think of your dance practice, can you reproduce those and give people a token of that?
Mm. Right.
And one thing I'd love to add in is whatever you do for your rewards, make sure that you have calculated how much it's going to cost to ship. Because I made a mistake on my very first campaign where I offered jars of jam, because my film was called Blueberry Soup, and I offered blueberry jam, and I did not think of how much it would cost to ship a jar of jam from Seattle to Australia. And I
Yeah.
lost money. So just when I'm thinking about your dance campaign, I'm thinking about scrunchies or things that are very like light to ship.
Right, right. Yes, if you're mailing things, that's really an important detail to consider that we might not be naturally thinking about, right? Okay. So we did have another question there. Is there a way to collaborate with other artists or increase visibility on Patreon specifically? I'm new to it and exploring possibilities with it.
I really like that question. Thank you for asking that question. So is there a way to collaborate with other artists? Yes, and I really encourage it if you can. Because there's so many tiers to benefit from in that. You could be helping another artist and get visibility towards their work. That's always good, right? You're putting their audience, their baked in fan base in front of your work, in front of your campaign. You could think about, I can give you an example. What are one of my favorite examples? I can go back to the shoe company idea. There was a film called Human Kindness, and it was on Indiegogo. And it was a documentary about animal welfare. And they reached out to a small vegan shoe company, and the shoe company created a limited edition for that film to be used as a reward on their campaign. And it did so well. And it promoted this really great ethical shoe company, and it created a new audience from the shoe company to see this film. And they did. They had great crossover, and they brought them to the screening of the film and highlighted there, and just kind of goes back and forth. And you can do that with all sorts of art. I did a film on the Icelandic Constitution, and I collaborated with three Icelandic artists. One of them um, was a poet, and he offered walking tours of Reykjavik from a poet's standpoint, and that was one of the tiers. I also had someone that did crochet art create little flowers that people would put in frames, and I tried very hard to promote that artist throughout my campaign. So that those are some of the ways that not only does that lift some of the weight of the financial burden of creating a reward for other people, but you're also holding up others during your campaign.
I love that, Eileen. Thank you for those ideas.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, one final question and then we will wrap up. What are the legal implications of accepting money from backers?
Great question. So I will tell you straight up, I am not a tax attorney. I am just somebody that's gone through the process a lot. What I have seen us have to keep in mind is if you're working under your fiscal sponsor, you're going to have some rules from them about how accounting is kept with who's donated, their addresses, all of that. Um, Secondly, you are going to want to consider how does this affect your taxes at the year end? Um, Many of us have to claim what we earned in our crowdfunder in our taxes. That's all I'll say with it because I just don't want to steer you the wrong way. But as far as legal implications, everything else is under this like legally fair umbrella that I haven't seen in a bad space for artists.
Great, thank you. Oh, and then one more question. In part of our wrapping up, we did have a question in the chat. Is it okay to reach out to you, Eileen, for future questions or advice?
Absolutely. Please, anybody. I'd love to see where your campaign's at. And if you have anything that you want to brainstorm, I love this stuff. So yes, please feel free to reach out.
And what is the best way to reach you?
Probably this email address is the best one. I will put it in our chat. It's wilmaswishes@gmail.com. Wilma's Wish is my film production company.
Well, that's perfect. Thank you. And
Okay.
just thank you so much for spending this time with us today on this topic. It's really, it's great to have you here as an artist and someone who's an expert at doing this. It makes all the difference, I think, in giving us a full spectrum, and a holistic perspective of what
Mm.
this is and how to think about going about it. And thanks to everybody who's here, who has attended. We hope that you found this webinar to be insightful. I want to remind you to take the post-webinar survey. Here we go, getting tripped up, putting it into the chat again. Okay, and it'll just take a couple of moments for you to fill that out, give us feedback, and share with us other topics that you'd be interested in learning more about. So that's it. Won't welcome you. I'll say goodbye, and I hope everyone has a lovely day. Be on the outlook for a future email that will have follow-up materials from this webinar for you. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.